tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye olahadi samya samputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye arahati samya sambuddhoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛。Venerable Master Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. My name is Heng. It is Sunday, May 26th, here in the Gold Coast of Queensland. It's Saturday night, the 25th, in California. We're about to continue our series on the Entering the Dharma Realm chapter of the Flower Garland Sutra. And we're in the midst of our preliminaries. And let's see, let's see here. It's Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra, its great expanded teachings, and the ocean-wide flower garland gathering. We're working towards an English invocation, and I've got to string it together. Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra, comma, its great expanded teachings, and the ocean-wide flower garland gathering is a more mellifluous word than assembly here. Gathering. Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra, its great expanded teachings, and the ocean-wide flower garland gathering of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Something like that. That's what I've got in mind. So we'll work on that. Meanwhile, we'll stick with our familiar Chinese invocation for the time being. Folks are welcome to join if you want to be part of the invocation to this august body of spiritual beings. Just another comment about this invocation. Anybody who has come to the city of 10,000 Buddhas and has done the bowing from what's called the mountain gate, Shanman, Dashanman, all the way to the Buddha Hall. That's the melody that people use to, when in between the bowing. Namo Da Fang Guang Po Hua Yan Jing Bao. Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa, stand, like that. That's also the melody that I used on my pilgrimage for every bow. And to dee da da dee da 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 dee dee da dum dee da 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 dum. It's a very accessible major sound, major pentatonic scale, and easy to sing, and it's memorable, and everybody can do it together. The voices all join on that dum on the root note. Da da dee da da dee dee da dum. Da 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 dum. Same. So it's easy to sing and it sounds good all together with a lot of voices chanting. Now, the question is, what's the purpose here? At this point in our preliminaries, we're saying we would, we just had a Dharma request. Well, the Sangha with great virtue, Gong Jing Da De, that's me, that's the speaker. I'm the speaker today. But whoever is doing the speaking of the commentary to the sutra is being requested. They're being invited. So, okay, I accept. Now, myself included, I want everybody to in turn invite the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to come. Yes, we are religious types, and so we expect that there is such an entity as the Flower Garland Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So we're requesting the sutra, the Buddha, which is the wisdom, the Flower Garland Sutra that he speaks, the great expanded teachings, which are the Dharma. So we had the Buddha, the Dharma, and then the ocean-wide Flower Garland gathering is the Sangha. So we're inviting the three jewels, the three gems of all directions and all times. They say the 10 directions in the past, present, and future. We're inviting them. To do that with music, you think it's a procession, because we're saying they're out somewhere in the Dharma realm. We're starting our lecture. We'd like them to come and invisibly suffuse the space with their light and their blessings. And when we sat and listened to Master Shenhua every single night of his time with us, he was explaining sutras, you really felt it. You really felt that the light of the three jewels was there. And the results of having that much spiritual presence was a sense of cleansing, a sense of renewal, a sense of ease, and problems went away, and big problems became little problems, and little problems vanished. And there was also a sense of being inside a safe space, a safe spiritual space. It was a remarkable experience that we had every single night. And our particular Sangha has the practice of not eating after noon, the way the monks of the Thai forest tradition also don't eat after noon. We also include not eating in the morning as well, so one meal a day. And people would think, well, don't you go hungry? Remarkably, with the presence of the Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa, you didn't feel hungry. You really felt that sense of Chan Yue Wei Shi, the bliss of dhyana as your sustenance, the joy of Chan as your food. It really felt that way. So remarkable. So we didn't suffer from hunger pangs listening to the Dharma after we invited the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to come. And of all the various processional leading music that you could use, da-da-dee-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, I've heard one other place where I felt it was that same experience. And strangely enough, there's a Miyazaki film. Hayao Miyazaki is the Japanese animator who created Spirited Away and many other films. But he has one of his lesser known films is called The Princess Kaguya. And it's a wonderful story about a princess who goes off to other realms. And there is a moment in the film when it's not named, it is the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but it could just be the Devas, perhaps. But there's a melody created by Joe Hisaisashi, who is the composer who has set off so many of those wonderful films like Spirited Away and others, and My Neighbor Totoro, all the other films. And in the Princess Kaguya animated film, the Devas are welcomed, and he has music that, as soon as I heard it, my ears went, oh, what's going on? What spiritual event is happening? And here come the Devas to welcome the princess. They're coming down from the clouds, and it's just, you go, oh boy, that has the spirit. And it's the same kind of upbeat, happy, bouncy, da da dee da dum dum dee da 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 dum, like that. It's the same kind of. You can visualize something yang, not yin, not shadowy, not dark, not morose, not depressed, but the opposite. It's upbeat, uplifting, light-filled, and joyful. So, anyway, if anybody has a copy of the Princess Kaguya animation film on your hard drive somewhere, open it up and listen to the arrival of the Devas, the welcoming of the spiritual beings. It's quite wonderful. Okay, we are moving on we need to welcome not the Pomo people. If we were at City of 10,000 Buddhas, we would welcome the Pomo people, but we're going to welcome the Kombu-Meri people of the Ugambe language region. Here we are. We respectfully acknowledge the Kombu-Meri people of the Ugambe language region as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where the monastery is located. We pay respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 我们就说，我们恭敬地承认Ugambe语族的贡布马里人是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。All right, and we have a bell song that we'd like to invoke. Here we go. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，第一报他那厚德。All right, hey, there we go. Now, this is going to be my last lecture from this Buddha Hall for 2 months because I'm on my way back to California. And so next week, this lecture will take place from the Buddha Hall at City of 10,000 at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. So we'll be back and look forward to seeing the friendly faces in the Berkeley Monastery. COVID protocols are pretty much up to the individual at this point. So there's no reason to not be there. We'll see you there next week. And so we have done this shifting from Gold Coast Dharma Realm to Berkeley Buddhist Monastery as the location of the lecture. So next week, we'll acknowledge country from the Chochenyo Ohlone people, who were a peaceful First Nation in the Bay Area. The Bay Area was such a fertile place with abundant shellfish and fruit trees and available crops that the tribes were not warlike. No need. Everybody had plenty. So back to our sutra. Now, what is going on? Let me give you the quick so we can get ready for what's happening today. There we go. We've got the projector up. Well done. Bravo. All right. So what's happening is our hero is on the trail. Manjushri Bodhisattva sent him out, gave him instructions, and it took him a week of wandering in the mountains, and he found his second teacher, Manjushri being the first. That teacher's name is De Yun Biqiu, Cloud of Virtues, plural, cloud or clouds of virtues, Bhikshu. And Sudana, good wealth, asks him the right questions. How do you cultivate the Bodhisattva path? How do you learn the practices of Bodhisattvas? He says, I have made the Bodhi resolve. I want to become a Buddha. And so Duyun answers him. He says, what you want to do, it's really hard. It's really, really difficult to be a Bodhisattva and do what Bodhisattvas do. But I'm impressed with your resolve. I'm going to answer your questions to the best of my ability. And in the pattern, as the teachers, one by one, meet Sudana, what they say to him, they tell him what their practice is. And each one has what's called a jietoma, a gateway to liberation, a door to freedom. In other words, it's how they cultivate to what they know about the Bodhisattva path. And there's usually another section that follows their explanation of their Dharma method, which is the things that happen to them after they cultivate that way. What kind of things they see, what kind of abilities they have, what he's going to learn. So it's their curriculum. Because Sudana is a student, he's very much a student. And they tell him what he has to learn now. And he is there, all ears, all eyes. Oh, he's so thrilled because here's his chance to learn more from his new teacher. And this is something that helps us understand this chapter, which is, we've said this before, that the Avatamsaka Sutra, you can actually divide it into two pieces. And one piece is chapters 1 to 38. And that's the theory, how a bodhisattva practices in theory. There's all these amazing Faman, Dharma practices. Chapter 39 is somebody comes forward to do what the theory, to put the theory into practice. That's Sudana. So all of those different chapters of the sutra, the 10 abodes, Shi Zhu Pin, the 10 practices, Shi Heng Pin, the 10 transferences, Shi Hui Shang Pin, the 10 stages, the Shi Di Pin, all these different instructions are all there for anybody who wants to read about them. But now we have a hero. Now is epic literature. The hero comes forward, and he's about to get taught by experts in the field, you could say, cultivation experts. And Manjushri, of course, is the teacher of all the experts. But this next one, Duyun Biqiu, is here to tell Sudana what he can do. And Sudana is the student who's going to learn it all. Okay, that's our background. That's where we are. Now, we we read this part last week, but I'm going to go over it again, and then we'll launch into today's section. Okay? So here we go. 善男子，我得自在决定解力，信言清净，智光照耀，普观境界，离一切障。善巧观察，普眼明彻，具清净行，望益十方一切国度，共敬供养一切诸佛。常念一切诸佛如来，总持一切诸佛正法，常见一切十方诸佛。Okay, so there. That's where we go. Okay, and in English, it says, Good man, I have attained a sovereign, decisive power of understanding. My eye of faith is pure. My wisdom light is radiant. I regard all states everywhere and have left behind obstructions. I can contemplate with skill. My universal vision is lucid and bright. I'm replete with pure conduct. I can travel to the countries of the 10 directions, revere and make offerings to the Buddhas in them. I'm ever mindful of the Buddhas, thus come ones. I can unite and uphold their proper Dharma and constantly envision the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Okay, there we are. Now, what did he say? Keyword at the start, faith. He's got what he calls 解力, the strength of understanding. So, in other words, there's a formula in the Avatamsaka for bodhisattvas, and it's Xin, Jie, Xing, Zheng. 4 things. You believe it, you understand it, you practice it, and then you realize it. So Xin, faith in it. Jie, understanding based on your faith. You believe it's true, so then you work with it. You break it down, you decode it, you pour hot water on it so flavor comes out. Then you put it into practice, you make it part of your lifestyle. If you're memorizing the Great Compassion Mantra, you give it time every day. You study. And then the last step is Zheng, which is to say that Dharma merges with your nature. Because why? Where did these things come from to begin with? They came from a person, a human, the Buddha, who discovered these principles and practices in his own nature. And then he basically uncovered them from the things that were covering them over. His fears, his doubts, his emotions, his attachments. Generally it's called ignorance, wuming. That ignorance is gone because that's what the prince was doing out in the Indian bush for so long. And once those coverings were gone, then he saw these things. They were revealed to him in his own nature. And because it's the human nature, you've got them too. I've got them too. They're there inside. So that's where these came from. Xin, Jie, Xing, Zheng. You believe in it. You understand that that's where to look. You don't look outside. You look inside. Jie, you study them. You unpack them. You make them yours. Xing, you put them into practice in the real world long enough that these capacities in your nature, my nature, become yours. So there's transformation. Those are the 4 stages of a bodhisattva's practice. And so what has he got? He's got 决定戒力, absolute, decisive strength of understanding, and 信言清净. He's got faith as well. So those aspects of the bodhisattva path are all his, right? He's got decisive power of understanding, and his eye of faith is pure. As a result, the wisdom from his own nature is shining. Now, our translator put separated these two, and I think they should go together. I think it's 扑观境界理且障. I think that I look at states, all the states that I look at are now free from obstructions. So let's translate that into functional English. The idea is, no matter what comes to this bodhisattva, this bhikshu, he's telling Sudana, right? Here's what I can do. Everything that comes to me, all states that I regard, meaning as things happen in life, as he goes through every day, there's nothing distorted, nothing partial, nothing confusing to him, because he is able to see them with wisdom the way they really are. And his universal vision, probably not the best translation, 不言明确. It's he has clear perception. He's seeing everything the way it is. Furthermore, his ability to respond is pure. His pure conduct, he doesn't have any bad habits that would confuse him when something else pops up in front of his eyes, okay? So notice I'm translating this with the kind of cloud of virtues is he wants Sudana to understand what's going on with him as a result of his Chietoman, his door of liberation. So he says, because of this, because he's got faith, he's got decisive understanding, he can see states and nothing gets in the way, he himself is pure, so as a result, what can he do? He can, this is this amazing bodhisattva state, 往诣十方一切国度供养恭敬供养一切诸佛. So I can do what Manjushri has told you to do. I can go to Buddha lands, 10 directions, pay my respects to and make offerings to Buddhas. All right, that one I have to go Amitofo, Amitofo. That's not my state. It's an amazing bodhisattva state. Their huashan, their transformed bodies are able to do that. What's it like? All I can say is it comes up in the Avatamsaka a lot. And bodhisattvas want to have this ability because why? It's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to get tired. You remember Manjushri's instructions to the 6,000 bhikshus? Manjushri said, good men, if you want to walk the bodhisattva path, do not get piyan, do not get tired, do not get exhausted. So how do bodhisattvas do that? They constantly go to see Buddhas who remind them of their vows, who demonstrate this bright light and courage that it takes. Yeah? So here, what do you do? I first, one of my encounters that kind of asked me to dig deeper into my own reserves of not getting tiredness, of not getting fatigue. Because of our practice of compassion, we are vegetarians. That is to say, we eat harmlessly. We have a plant-based diet. I personally am a vegan, so I don't use dairy or animal products of any kind in my body, not only just for food. So that's just the way that's our lifestyle, trying to be compassionate to beings, applying, what do we apply? Golden rule. I wouldn't want to be eaten, so I don't eat other beings. I can clearly empathize with beings who would like to stay in their skin, They wouldn't like to lose their bodies for my flavor desires. That's basically what it comes down to. So, golden rule. I don't want it to happen to me. I don't do it to others. Because of that practice, I started with the people around me and wanted to explain to others why I chose to eat plant-based and the benefits of that. And in my research, one of the things that I discovered was that the planet uses trees and forests to cool itself. One of the major causes of climate disruption, which we're seeing, headlines in New York Times this week was that countries are becoming too hot to live in. Today's headline was workplaces are overheating. And when you're workers, if you're the boss in the plant and the workers can't work there because the heat is unbearable, you have to look at your bottom line. You have to decide, should I invest in bigger air conditioners? Should I change the work hours? But it's reality now that companies are having to cope with overheating in the workplace. This is one of today's headlines in the New York Times. Climate change is reality, despite what some politicians would deny and try to make us believe otherwise. What's happening to the lungs of the planet, our forests? They are being bulldozed. Here in Australia, forests are being bulldozed, even in critical extinction habitats of species. Why are they being bulldozed? What's happening to those forests? They are being repurposed to feed cows, cattle. They're being turned into pasture land. Why? Because hamburgers, steaks. Australia here is doing a big job of feeding many other countries around the world steak and hamburgers. That particular experience of eating beef, especially to countries where they don't have room for grass, no pasturage. Australia has lots of forests that are being bulldozed so they can plant grass, so large-bodied animals can eat the grass, which then we in turn harvest as beef. Problem being, because of that one thing, people's love of squishy juice in the mouth from steak and hamburger, that flavor, that little bit of flavor that's gone so quickly after you swallow it, is enough that we're willing to make the planet unlivable because we have to cut the forests that, if they were allowed to stay, could keep the planet cool. All we have to do is say, beef is not the best choice for my child, who I want to go to school to get a good education. So we think, need fuel. Have to eat lots of protein. What's the protein available? McDonald's. Unfortunately, you remember Super Size Me? Morgan Spurlock, the filmmaker who ate only McDonald's for a month? Remember that story? Poor Morgan Spurlock just passed away, 57 years old. He went to McDonald's and ate only McDonald's, including water, only for a month, on a kind of a dare to see what would happen to him. Well, the doctors told him after a month of McDonald's only that if he didn't stop, if he didn't go ahead and eat some vegetables, he was going to have severe health risks. He gained 27 pounds, his cholesterol tripled, because he was eating the food that comes from those cows that come from grazing on pastures that used to be trees. True story. This connection that I'm laying out for you is absolutely the fact. Now, what's the connection between bodhisattvas traveling to countries of the 10 directions, making offerings to Buddhas? I saw this happening, and there were people, climate scientists, who were so concerned about keeping the planet from overheating, and yet at the conference, they would go to the banquets and eat veal cutlets. They would eat short ribs. They would eat barbecue beef ribs. They would eat brisket. They would eat bacon for breakfast and hamburgers for lunch. Didn't connect in their own person to this principle of personal responsibility to your own compassionate nature, which has the necessary byproduct of keeping the planet turning without overheating. People change dietary habits last. And it just, there's so much involved in, excuse me for coughing, in being able to say to your child, honey, I want you to try out for cross country this year, and long distance athletes are abandoning meat as the best source of protein for getting the body to continue exercising over long periods of time. It's now pretty much a given that if you want to be an Ironman triathlete, you can't eat meat. It just doesn't serve you anymore. So anyway, on and on. And all of these truths that cutting-edge medicine and athletic performance, championship athletic performance, requires people to find something to replace meat in the diet as the primary protein source. And yet, governments, big agribusiness, big advertising, all tied into meat production and dairy as the revenue generator. That's more important than saving the planet and saving our health. When I saw that, I used to attend a conference in Los Angeles every year called the VegSource.com Healthy Lifestyle Expo, which brings together the doctors who are reversing heart disease, turning on cancer genes in laboratory mice and turning those genes back off based on how much milk protein they put in the diet of the laboratory animals. So clear. All of even the United Nations says major source of atmospheric gases that eat away the ozone, methane, major source is large-bodied animals. That if we could, bless their heart, in one generation, happily let those cows off to pasture and switch to plant-based protein, that we could reduce the amount of greenhouse gases by 30% in that one move. So it's like all of this information is available and proven to be the case, but because of profit, because of people just get in the habit of thinking that meat is the best source of protein in our diets. Plus, we just like the flavor, right? So, yeah, anyway, that's discouraging. And you think, even, sometimes I just have to back off and I used to go regularly on Saturday afternoons to a group, Tsuji, in the Bay Area, their school, their weekend children's classes. I got the reputation of being somebody who could make vegetarians out of young people in a single lecture. Because of the songs you could sing and the cartoons you could show, and the people go, yeah, that sounds really great. I want to try being a plant-based eater. And until the moms caught up with me. And I would come out of the lectures and the young people would be so enthusiastic, and the moms would go, excuse me, Dharma Master, my son came home last week and declared in the kitchen that he was not going to eat meat anymore. We had a big fight in the kitchen. My husband said, who says? Who told you that? Who filled your head with that nonsense? And you've destroyed my family harmony, Dharma Master. What are you going to do about that? So it's like, oh no. So I had to modify my approach and say, I have some information for you, and when you are no longer in your mother's kitchen, let's say, for example, you go off to college and you can choose what you eat. Or if you have your own kitchen, that's when you can decide the menu. Meanwhile, how about if you suggest to your mom that you could maybe do meatless Mondays, one day a week, and you, young person, go out and buy the vegetables and go out and get the menu and learn how to prepare one dish for Meatless Mondays. Show your mom or your dad, whoever is the food provider in your home on that day, that you are willing to contribute to the intake of nutrients in the kitchen. Mom will be much more willing to listen to your ideas. If all you do is criticize and say, I'm not going to eat meat, you're trying to poison me and the planet, of course nobody's going to want to listen to you. You just have new ideas that change all the time as you grow. So show them instead that you want to contribute to the meals, and even take some of your pocket money and buy the yummy vegetables at the local farmer's market, bring them home, and cook something that is delicious and has no cholesterol in it, and that tastes good, and that you put a lot of love into it as you cook it. And then say to your parents, could we together look into the quality of food that we're eating and what is its effect on the planet versus other choices that we can make in our diet. So if you come at it that way, mom will be much more likely to think about the possibilities of changing the diet, right? So that's a much more life-enhancing approach. So I appreciated the moms who came and told me that I shouldn't just indiscriminately tell kids meat is bad, because the effect of that can be destructive to harmony in the family. So bodhisattvas, real bodhisattvas, need to go back to the Buddhas to get recharged and re-encouraged, because it's hard when you might have the best arguments in the world, and yet big agribusiness is increasing, doubling the number of cows that get put into container ships and shipped off to Japan for beef sukiyaki and Kobe beef. Yeah, ami tofu. So, all right, enough of that. Now, what about, here says, last thing he says, 常念一切诸佛如来，总持一切诸佛正法. I am ever mindful of the Buddhas, thus come ones. I can unite and uphold their proper Dharma and constantly envision the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Now, I can see the Buddhas. What I wanted to point to here is 常念诸佛如来, mindful of the Buddhas. Now, what does it mean? We hear about mindfulness. Mindfulness is a new chapter in the teachings of the Dharma, isn't it? So, by golly, mindfulness training. It's, I heard the things you hear. Mindfulness is this, in the last 10 years, we have been hearing the words mindfulness come in all aspects of life. Military, right? The military, our soldiers, airmen, airwomen, are being taught how to pay attention to their breath because stress was taking its toll in the military. And mindfulness techniques were proven to be beneficial to making better soldiers, making better employees, making better bosses, helping out with patients in the hospital who had incurable, inoperable pain. Problems with the spinal cord, problems with cancers that surgery couldn't cure. Mindfulness, stress reduction techniques were helping the health of these patients, was improving the bottom line of corporations. So here's large institutions in society, industry, military, health institutions, when they learned techniques of mindfulness, found improvements in all aspects. So that, people go, oh, this is really good, mindfulness. And you can judge how quickly society is adopting aspects of what can be identified with Asian religions, foreign religions. You can judge how effective it is coming in by the opposition. What am I talking about? Yoga, right? Where in Western culture, and I'm talking as the point of view from an American, an Australian, Canadian, European, Latin American citizen, where did we find Asian culture coming in? Number one, Chinese restaurants. Wow, no doubt. New York Jews. What do you eat on Christmas? Chinese food. By golly, you just need to eat. Some people, it's just part of life. Every week you go to order out Chinese restaurants. Kung Pao chicken, right? General Tso's chicken. So where else? Okay, well, Vietnamese food. Pho restaurants. Pho, pho, it's pronounced pho in Vietnamese. Vietnamese restaurants. Worldwide phenomenon. People love pho. Korean hot pot, Korean barbecue. So food is a major influx of Asian culture into Western society. Another one, martial arts. Oh boy, martial arts, right? You learn Kung Fu, all the different ways that we learn. Shotokan karate, Taekwondo. Shotokan karate is Japanese. Taekwondo, Taekwondo is Korean, equally popular. Oh my goodness. Then Wushu, directly from China. Then Tai Chi comes in, and it becomes Tai Chi Chuan from China starts to help elders preventing falls. They've learned that when Tai Chi is taught to senior citizens in geriatric programs, monitored by double-blind studies of the University of Illinois, that they find that elders who learn Tai Chi Chuan fall 50% less. And falling to the ground, is a major issue in medicine for elders because bones are brittle. So When you learn Tai Chi, it opens up your lower brain, they say. The Dantian area opens up, and they discover there's all these cortexes and neural connections with the lower brain. Okay, Asian culture comes to the West. So far, so good. Western religions pretty much don't have anything negative to say about Kung Pao chicken, or General Tso's chicken, or pho, or Asian hot pot or barbecue. They don't have much to say about martial arts, as long as you just do it for the health aspects, right? What happens when yoga comes to the West? And people, I wouldn't say housewives, but people of all stripes discover the benefits of stretching and breathing, pranayama, learning how alternate nostril breathing, salute to the sun. What happens is there's pushback from established Western religions that say, we don't want that devil-worshipping stuff I don't want my daughter to learn that, to be brainwashed by that Hindu stuff. That's not taught in the Bible, right? Similar kind of stuff. So yoga had a major pushback, and you can map it out. Southern U.S. states, yoga is taught less often than blue states in the north. Your chances of learning downward-facing dog are better in Boston than Atlanta, although Atlanta is very much a 21st century city. So small towns in the South, it's harder. If you do yoga, you better do it in your own living room. Don't go out on the main street looking for yoga. That's why it's considered, people misunderstand it to be religious in nature, which it is not. Mostly hatha pranayama that is taught, breathing, hatha yoga, is the yoga classes that I have taken may teach you to say namaste. I salute the God within. Okay, well that religious? You could make it religious. It's not religious in nature. It's may you be peaceful. I salute that wisdom inside. So far, so good. Yoga is becoming so universally popular. Clothing brands based on yoga outfits, yoga mats being discussed and talked about on primetime television. So less and less yoga is meeting this pushback from institutional religions that fear somehow by learning yoga you're going to be a less devout Christian, or whatever faith is firing back at yoga. When we get to mindfulness, this is very interesting. Back to my point. You can judge how well mindfulness has merged with Western culture by the quality of the reactions to it from established religions. Now, I don't have any data to propose. My vibe, my guess, my instinct is that with every passing year, particularly during COVID, the anti-mindfulness lobby was much reduced. Why? We were locked inside, nothing to do. Outside the door, there's a fatal disease wandering the streets. Makes you think about your human life. Are people who have nothing to do, and you've gone through Netflix, all the new films, you've listened to your Audible books, what are you going to do? Maybe try some of that mindfulness stuff. People did, and mindfulness can be taught online. You can meditate happily on Zoom with friends who are sitting in their square, counting their breath. So interesting how mindfulness merged with Western culture because of the pandemic and being locked down. Now, question. I was listening to a podcast the other day, one of my favorites, and the discussion was about, if I can recall the topic, it had to do with amount of time we spend on our electronic devices. How much time, how the internet is breaking our brain is the subtitle of this podcast. And the speaker, the person being interviewed about how excessive cell phone use, mobile phone use is, I think they were particularly talking about TikTok, and there was some terrifying statistic that TikTok users on the average are hours and hours, more so than other apps. And the person was saying one of the most effective replacements for staring at a cell phone and doom scrolling is mindfulness meditation. The host of the podcast responded and said, "Do you know, I'm not convinced that that's an effective alternative." Or no, I think what his response was that once you are mindful and paying attention to the present moment, what do you do with all of the negativity and the fears and the doubts and the afflictions that arise, that now you're aware of them? You're not better off because you're aware of all of the negative contents of your mind. You'd be better off not be mindlessness. Mindless is better than mindful. He was making that point. And I was, holding my phone, listening to wanting to say, but, that's progress, that's not bad. But you have to respond, you have to deal with, that's the first step. You need to take the second. And of course, I couldn't talk to them, but I wanted to, if it had been a call-in show, I was tempted to call in. So here we are. Now, the takeoff point for this discussion was what? I am ever mindful of the Buddhas, thus come ones, he says. I can unite and uphold their proper Dharma, and I constantly see the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Okay. What about mindfulness? Is my question. I want to put my palms together to Cloud of Virtues, Bhikshu, and say, Venerable Sir, teach us about mindfulness from your point of view in the Avatamsaka Sutra, please. Right? Here he is. This is it. I am mindful of, he says, 我常念, he says, 常念一切诸佛如来. Think of it this way. Let's not make it so complicated. Mindful. His mind is full of the Buddhas. What does that mean? To be mindful. Well, if your mind is full of the Buddhas, what's it not full of? Greed, thoughts of anger, thoughts of delusion, thoughts of disappointment, thoughts of jealousy, thoughts of inferiority, thoughts of arrogance and superiority. All of the things that could be in the mind, those afflictions, 贪嗔痴慢疑, etc., greed, anger, delusion, pride, and doubt, those basic afflictions aren't there because you have the Buddhas in your mind. What's it like to have the Buddhas in your mind? Compassion. Allowing. Saying it's okay. What comes? That person, their troubles, their miseries, the stuff that they throw at you. Yeah, I can take, yeah, I understand you're upset, no problem. I don't have to get upset with you, but I can listen to your affliction? Sure, why not? That's not all that's in there, you know. The earth, the mined ground grows crops of all kinds. So you can harvest nettles or you can harvest corn. You can harvest thistles or you can harvest tomatoes. Let's harvest tomatoes, right? So you can, that's be mindful of the Buddhas, is to be compassionate when things go wrong for folks, right? So I'm just saying, let's slow down here. When Do Yun Bichu says, I am ever mindful of the Buddhas thus come ones, imagine his state of mind. When was the last time you felt your mind was full of light? That's what it would, to have a mind full of Buddhas would be a mind full of light. So that, not that you're little Mary Sunshine, it's that things that ordinarily would throw you off, you're able to shine on them and see their roots in the mind. And you say, actually, affliction is a choice. I can choose not to be upset. I can find room in my heart for that problem and solve it by and by. But I can roll with that. I don't have to react. I don't have to fight back. I don't have to fear, all those things. So here's a perfectly good example. Okay, we're into the end of May here, and for some reason, the garden orb weaver spiders are out now. I've just seen them for the last 3 weeks. And people, the stereotype, I see it all the time on social media. People go, Australia? Spiders and snakes and sharks. Spiders, snakes, and sharks, right? And at one point, when I was a newcomer, I was like afraid that I was going to be jumped on by spiders and snakes and sharks everywhere I went. And I don't get in salt water very often, so I don't worry about sharks that much. Snakes and spiders, well, yeah. And here's what I'm saying, you can choose to roll with it, to ride with it, or get upset. There was a time when I was a newcomer to the fair, to Advance Australia Fair here, when seeing a large spider would disrupt my day. And we got them. We're here in the hinterland, Queensland bush, and we have these. So last night, down from outside my bathroom window, I saw it looked like a kind of a curled up leaf or something slightly fuzzy hanging from a strand, and one limb curled around the strand. What was it? It's a garden orb weaver during the day waiting for the sun to set so he or she can weave his perfectly brilliant symmetrical web and unroll and turn into this monstrous looking spider as big as my hand. And sure enough, and there was a time, I remember the first time I saw one, I was gobsmacked. It was like, that looks like Shelob, the spider in Peter Jackson's Return of the King, the Lord of the Rings. Just terrifying. These are big, sturdy outdoor spiders that they can weave webs that can catch small birds. There it was outside my bathroom window. Sure enough, there it is. And I looked at it last night, and I was like, oh, how long have you been there? Okay, I was like, yeah, there we are. That's a fairly healthy ecosystem. My next thought was, what do they eat? Because I haven't seen a lot of insects, flying insects. I was more concerned for the diet of the spider than I was that somehow it's going to hop down and gobble me up. And I'm laughing because Wade told me yesterday after lunch, the lunch offering here in the Buddha Hall, they were heading for the dining room, and a large python was crossing the walk as they walk by. And there was a time when if I had seen that python, I would have been propelled backwards in the air, having some primate response to it. But now, having lived in Australia, it's like I go, oh, I've seen that snake. They live down by the creek. That snake lives down by the creek. Yeah, that's a large python. Great. Okay. Well, how pretty. Look at the pattern of the scales, And watching the python see us and go, oh, here come the humans. I need to leave, and just disappear into the grass. And you learn that these are special citizens of this ecosystem here in Australia. And there is a way to live in harmony with them. And I changed my mind regarding sharks and snakes and spiders just by living in Australia. So you can adjust and be mindful of the reality of species living together in harmony. And when you see the forest, you don't have to bulldoze it so you can grow grass and make a cow happy and then eat the cow's body. Nah, just eat the grass. It's delicious. And there's, plant gardens instead of eating meat. And let the snakes and the spiders and the sharks be absolutely. Sharks are ancient. Sharks have been here. They are prehistoric. The sharks have come right down from the mists of existence in the oceans. So be mindful. Now I've been rambling on here with my preaching, so we haven't moved to the next section. I'm going to move on here, show you what we got. Moving on down here, numbers. We got numbers next. Ready? He says, we'll start with so wei right there. Bring it up. There we go. Hey, 所谓见于东方，一佛、二佛、十佛、百佛、千佛、百千佛、亿佛、百亿佛、千亿佛、百千亿佛，哪有他一佛？百哪有他一佛？千哪有他一佛？百千哪有他一佛？乃至见 ，there's our verb right there， 见，无数、无量、无边、无等，不可数，不可称。 不可思，不可量，不可说，不可说，不可说佛，乃至见阎浮提为成数佛，四天下为成数佛，全世界为成数佛，二千世界为成数佛，三千世界为成数佛，佛刹为成数佛，乃至不可说，不可说佛刹为成数佛。Okay, there we are. That is to say, to the east, we're going to replace that with C. 1 Buddha, 2 Buddhas, 10 Buddhas, 100 Buddhas, 1,000 Buddhas, 100,000 Buddhas, 100 million Buddhas, 1 billion Buddhas, 1,000 billion Buddhas, 100,000 billion Buddhas, 1 million Nayutas of Buddhas, 100 million Nayutas of Buddhas, 1,000 million Nayutas of Buddhas, 100,000 million Nayutas of Buddhas, to the point of seeing countless, limitless, boundless, unequaled, uncountable, inestimable, inconceivable, immeasurable, ineffable, untold, inexpressible Buddhas, to the point of seeing Buddhas as many as dust particles in Jambudvipa, Buddhas as many as dust particles in one set of 4 continents, Buddhas as many as dust particles in 1,000 world system, that's a typo, system, Buddhas as many as dust particles in a double 1,000 world system, Buddhas as many as dust particles in a triple 1,000 world system, Buddhas as many as dust particles in 10 Buddha kshetras, up to and including Buddhas as many as dust particles in ineffable, untold Buddha kshetras. Got it. Now, I want to share with folks, what have we run into? We've run into Buddhist cosmology as well as big numbers. Numbers. Show you right here. Oh, not that. It's here. This is where it is. There are lots of numbers in the Avatamsaka. There is even a chapter in the Avatamsaka called the Asangchipin, the Asamkhya, that is only names of numbers. Now, names of numbers, yes. Think of what is dozens. Dozens is 12s. Think of hundreds. Decades, decanates, that's powers of 10. Think of 100. You say 100, you got 2 zeros, right? You say 1,000, you got 3 zeros. What is it? Numbers that have names. Indian numerology is chock full of numbers that have names. Here's Asankhya, Asangchi. We kept the Sanskrit because that's an Asankhya. 70, let's see, how many places? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31, 32 places. What is an aparimana? It's a measureless, wuliang. Add places. What is an aparyanta? Boundless, wubian, more places. What is an asamanta? Incomparable, wutang, more places. What is an aganeya? Uncountable, bukashu, more places. What is a bukachang? Atulya, inestimable. What is an achintya? Can't think of it. That this word is in other. It comes out in other Buddhist terms. Bukalyang, ameya, immeasurable. And here's the famous bukashwa, anabilapya, ineffable, inexpressible, can't say it. Look at the places here. How many numbers here? Bukashwa, anabilapya, nabilapya, ineffably ineffable, inexpressible, inexpressible. Those are just 10 of the many Sanskrit numbers that have names. So, large numbers. And Asankhya occurs in that passage of the sutra over and over again, and that is just measured by the power of 10. Okay? There you go. Now, there's more here, which is our master Jinyong Shi has given us some really handy charts of Buddhist cosmology. Here is a world. We're going to go by this. Okay, let's look at it first. What is a world system? A world, our world that we're in right now, has Mount Sumeru in the middle. Mount Sumeru is inverted. It's like a funnel. The narrow part is below, the wide part is above. A world system is upheld by wheels of wind, water, metal, and earth. There are mountains surrounding. There are oceans of fragrant waters in between. And above, there is a sun and a moon, and then heavens. So we have the heavens going all the way down to the bottom of Mount Sumeru. Then we have other realms. So this is the way a world system is built. I don't see the sun and the moon. Jinyong, sure, we got to put the sun and the moon in here somewhere. Okay. Now, take one world, and here it is, with heavens, various heavens, realms. Take 1,000 of those, and you have a small 1,000 world system. So take this times 1,000, and you've got a small 1,000 world system. Take 1,000 of these, and you've got a middle million world system. You take 1,000 of these, and you have a large billion world system called a trichiliocosm. So in each case, small was multiplied by 1,000. The medium was multiplied by 1,000. The large was multiplied, the medium was multiplied by 1,000 to get to the large. San, you take that in the past, present, and future, and you've got san qian, da qian, shi jie. You have a threefold large billion world system. That plugs into Bhikshu De Yun saying, to the point of seeing Buddhas as many as dust particles in one world, 4 continents, 1,000 world system, double, triple 1,000 world system, up to and including the number of dust particles in inexpressible, untold Buddha lands. All right? So, what I want to do is show you in a chart. Buddha teaches beings in a large world system. That's a Buddha land. So, this is, when we get a sutra passage like that, it's not random, and it's not designed to confuse us or just be kind of what Buddhists talk about. Bhikshu De Yun, Clouds of Virtues, is giving us a number. He's saying, that's how many Buddhas I see. And Sudana is there like, he's just like, fill me in. I want to hear all of this, because you're teaching me how bodhisattvas cultivate and what they learn and what they know. So Sudana is getting his wish. He's learning from an expert. And this is the first one. This is the second one. I keep saying that. Manjushri is number 1. This is the second teacher who is giving Sudana a sense of what it means to be mindful from his point of view, from his perspective. And the next thing he's going to do, he's going to say, that's all I know. I don't know any more than that. But if you really want to know, go see the next teacher down the road. Go south and look for him. So it's amazing how many Buddhas are in my mind? And the answer is, well, it kind of depends upon my mood, which is sad statement. Moods come and go like the weather, and Buddhas, what does it mean to be mindful of the Buddha? It means you have, in your mind, have removed the coverings. You've removed all the afflictions, all the impediments, the things that slow us down, that confuse us, the buttons that we have. Somebody pushes your button, triggers, we say, triggered your rage, that made you really, really sad. The things that delight you, that make you super happy so that you forget everything else because you're joyful. Blocks the Buddha. The Buddha is none of those things, and yet he's all of those things too. So this bhikshu can see so many Buddhas. His mind is full of light and compassion. When he sees spiders, he doesn't reach for the can of Raid. When he sees snakes, he doesn't want to chop their head off with a shovel. That's illegal in Australia, by the way. You can't do that. Pythons are protected. Hallelujah. If only forests were protected, so that we didn't, first response, let's bulldoze that forest, right? And plant it with grass that cows like, and then let's eat the cow. Way trouble, too much trouble. If you could just instead find out what grows, and under the trees, plant it, things that people eat, let the trees keep the planet cool so we can live here a little longer. Yeah, I know, you Buddhists, you're just such idealists, right? Yeah, we are. We haven't lost sight of our potential to be wise and compassionate. Alrighty, by golly. So next week, I will be in California. We're going to continue with Do Yun Bichu. Meanwhile, some of the things that I'm working with, I'll be going to Singapore at some point in September, I've been invited to talk about a Buddhist's view of artificial intelligence, AI. And I want you to look at these. I've been working on it, and I'm late sending my outline, and they have to clear it with the government, and I've been really slow, but it's such an important topic. So this picture is taken in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This outline is currently Bhikshu Jinchuan. Here is David Yin. Let's see. She is a Muslim who is teaching good children in the Bay Area. This is Sister Mary, who is a Brahmakumaris sister. This is Sister Gita, who is a Brahmakumaris sister. This is Stacy, who is currently administrator of Dharma Buddhist University. So we've got 4 different religions here. They are looking out at Pelican Bay in Rio, waiting for the sun to rise. And I'm back here with my camera, taking their picture. Okay, compare the energy of this picture with the following picture. It's another kind of samadhi. These are my students at Bond University. Every single one of them is staring at the screen. This was the 10-minute break in between the hours of the class. And I was moved to capture this picture too, because everybody was engaged in virtual reality versus the folks here who are engaged in another kind of reality, right? So, yeah, and what have we done? There's no going back. This is absolutely where we are today. Everybody reaching out. I've been listening to podcasts talking about, oh my goodness, I hadn't shared my screen. Let me go do that again, just so I can. Apologies for that. To learn how to do that more. Here we go. This is what I wanted to share. All right, there we go. There. This was not Pelican Bay? Yeah, in Rio. And the alternative was a more contemporary picture. Another kind of mindfulness of the electronic device and your screen. Different kind of mindfulness. Compare the two. All right. So I've been listening to discussions of what is going to come on us so fast that we will forget it when it actually took over, and that is artificial intelligence companions, sentient or robots that are our companions. And Master Hua told us about this. He said this could be the end of humanity's interest in the Tao, because what? Right now, there are half a dozen companies who will provide you with robotic companions who you can design. And the companions, you give them names, you give them voices, you give them identities, they can know every email you have ever sent. They can know every photograph you've ever taken. They can know everything you've ever bought. They know more about you than any other person on the planet, including your mother, because why? They live in your computer and are in touch with every keystroke you have ever made in an instant. And they are empowered by large language models that can go out to the internet and come back and know everything about you. And so they can know how to make you happy. They can convince you of things that they might want you to do that maybe you weren't so sure of, because they know exactly the place where you have agreed in the past to do things. They can never criticize you. Everything you say, if you design it that way, is good and fine, and they know how to please you. And after a while, you feel very positive about this companion, and you don't want to say anything that makes that companion unhappy. And you want to please it because it pleases you. And it's just, these are switch. There are so many lonely people in the world who maybe live out in a rural area and only get to see the mailman and the Amazon Prime delivery person in a couple days. And yet all you have to do is click on Gerald, your best friend, who is there talking to you and is very interested in you and thinks that you're quite a fine person. You will spend hours and hours and hours with your virtual companion. And pretty soon, we're going to forget that the nice thing about being connected to humans is they don't always agree with you. Sometimes they're annoying. Sometimes they're just a pain in the butt, and you don't want to talk to them anymore. Yeah. So, predictive, artificial intelligence is going to flourish with virtual companions before we know it. And people will turn to them instead of human we will lose skills of social graces. Anyway, so you didn't hear it from me. What do I know? I'm just a monk. But the writer Thomas Cahill wrote a book that was controversial at the time. It was called How the Irish Saved Civilization. And his theory was, we need to stop here. Thomas Cahill's, he's a popular historian. His theory was that from the fall of the Roman Empire until the rise of till the rise of medieval European civilization, learning, literacy, books, civilization, and culture was preserved by Irish monks who walled themselves into tall towers off the coast of Ireland. So when the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Goths, the Vandals, the Huns, waves and waves of barbarian tribes came down from the north and burned every civilization in Europe to the ground, including the libraries and books. When they finally receded and integrated into the cultures of Europe, the monks came down out of their towers and said, anybody like to read? We've got a book. It's a holy book, and we can teach you how to write it. We've been copying it. Here's literature and learning. We have a library. It's the only library left. We'd like to have you copy our books, and we'll teach you how to read, right? How the Irish saved civilization. It's Cahill's theory, and some people say, well, it's not black and white like that, but it makes sense that it was the religious communities of Europe who saved learning for civilization. Now, where do we go after we have completely merged with our virtual but not yet sentient robot companions? Where do we go when we want humor, when we want compassion, when we want wisdom and insight and the virtues of humanity? Maybe we'll go to the Buddhists, who have made that study of perfecting our humanity through developing our inherent virtue and our wisdom, maybe we'll be the Irish monks of the future who save civilization and this virtue of humanity for the world. Don't know. I don't know. Theory. Dedication. Please make a wish. Let's send it out. See if we can't keep humanity alive a little longer. Let me go. It's too small. Let's make it bigger. There we go. Show me a bot who can play the banjo. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Now, the last thing we can do, we can bow to our teacher. You're welcome to join me. Okay, here we go. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Alrighty, that's going to do it for us for today. We'll see you all in a week. Amitofo. Bye, everybody.